All right, all right, all right. Welcome to Crossbar Conversations with Don and Blige, powered by the United Goalkeeping Alliance. We want you to come in, sit back, and enjoy a podcast all about goalkeeping on the pitch, sideline to sideline, and everything in between. Whether you're a coach, goalkeeper, a parent, we are exploring every corner of the position with honest conversations, pushing the culture of goalkeeping forward and opening up space for the discussions that matter. Kind of talk others shy away from, but booyah! We lean into them. No holds barred. Big thanks to our sponsor, the United Goalkeeping Alliance. We'll share more about the UGKA later in the show, but for now, let's get this party started. Here's Don, Blige, and Eric.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Crossbar Conversations with Don and Blige, powered by the UGKA, which is the United Goalkeeping Alliance, the #1 virtual learning platform for goalkeeping in the world. And we are extremely honored to have pretty much an idol for all three of us on this podcast here. A gentleman who's an icon in the game, has done everything and is still doing it. And I hope you live forever, Dr. Joe, because I know I know you're going to continue to do more great things for the game and for the position and the goalkeeping.
Thank you.
Our special guest is Dr. Joe Machnik, and it's got to be probably one of the most renowned names in the game. And Dr. Joe he's been a player, he's been a coach, broadcaster, he's director of Referee Association, commentator. He's involved with the analysis of things that go wrong in the game for penalties or whatever else. He's our expert witness for that. And All-American Soccer Hall of Fame All-American member, as well as an All-American goalkeeper. And I was looking over a bio with Dr. Joe, and I know he has quite an interest in hockey as well. And it was interesting looking at that, Dr. Joe, how the hockey and soccer really kind of came together for you, and it kind of launched a very, very awesome career for you. So also is the founder of the #1 soccer camps, originally the #1 goalkeeper camps, but started bringing strikers into the camp, which was like way ahead of its time. And it's something, Dr. Joe, that I think every goalkeeper camp should do, is get the players in there. And did not notice the staggering number, Dr. Joe, of over 80,000 players have come through your program. That's
correct. And actually, the stats you probably were reading were maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So we're hoping before we finish, and this is the 50th year this summer of #1 soccer camps. But before we wrap this thing up, as camps, because camps right now are really not like they were in the 70s or late 60s and 70s, when everybody was sending their goalkeepers and players to camp because that's where they got improved coaching or better coaching that they could receive in their local neighborhood. Today you got clubs in every community and good coaching all over the country, and you can go online and get good coaching as well. So soccer camps are playing a less important role than in the overall development of players that they did in the late 60s and 70s. But I appreciate it. And what I was about to say is that we're hoping to one day announce our 100,000th camper.
That's awesome.
And that will be in the not too distant future.
That's awesome. It's quite a record right there, Dr. Joe.
Thank you.
So to get started, I would like to, I know we've talked this over a little bit. We definitely would like to start out with talking about your book, From the Sandlot to the World Cup. It's your latest book you've written. And it's kind of your history of the game as you saw it as well. A lot of stories and anecdotes in there. What kind of stimulated you to write that, Dr. Joe?
Well, thank you. Actually, you talked about the United Soccer Coaches Convention and other soccer meetings. So I would go to these meetings and people would come up to me and say, you've done these things. You've been a player, you've been a coach, a referee, worked for the various different pro leagues, were national team assistant coach, et cetera, et cetera. When are you going to write a book? So I found myself with some time, and over 20 months. It's not an easy process. And the book is, well over 300 pages, has 115 photos, over 900 names are referenced, in the growth and development of the game going way back to the middle 50s when I saw my first games growing up in the Greenpoint neighborhood of Brooklyn, New York.
I understand the difficulty of writing a book. I wrote my book too, and I actually got started up after I worked Tim Howard's camp with Tim Mulqueen, and Tim Mulqueen is a great friend of mine. And I asked him about it because I use his book a lot too, and I asked him about the book, and he said it was the hardest thing he ever did. And I
Yeah.
said, no, it can't. How hard is that? So then I started writing my book, and it took me, I don't know, years, literally years. So I understand the drudgery that can be involved, but it's a great feeling when you get it done. And what you've written about is very, very cool. So uh, the you kind of blend your history in there in the book as well as the history of what you've done with the game. Is that correct?
Well, it just so happens. I mean, maybe it's a result of being at the right place at the right time. But, I was growing up when the game was in America was just beginning to develop. World War II was over. There was a big immigration from Europe. And there were some ethnic soccer leagues in New York City where I lived. And I watched every Sunday in a park in my neighborhood. I watched the different teams play. And I used to go out the park just to watch the game. Sundays were the days where they play hockey in Madison Square Garden, the Rangers. So I had to kill that time in the afternoon because the 7 o'clock game, this is when if you had a high school ID card, you could get into the garden for 40 cents. So
Wow.
that doesn't exist anymore. But I loved hockey and I saw the similarities, between the games. So the goalkeeper, you had a referee and two linesmen back then. That's how hockey was officiated. You had penalty kicks and penalty shot in hockey. Uh, there's offside in both, although it's a completely different phenomenon. And so when I got into high school, and I sat down in a class, an English class actually, next to a gentleman whose name was Andrew Sheparovich. And we started talking about hockey. And it was easy for me. He was from Ukraine. And so the Boston Bruins at that time had what they called the Yuki line: Johnny Busick, Vic Stasiak, Branko Horvath. And so we had this connection. I could talk hockey to him, and he says to me, "Did you ever play soccer?" I said, "No, but I watch." I mean, he said, "Well, we need a goalkeeper for the JV team in high school." So I went up to the gym, eighth floor gym, Brooklyn Tech. There were 6,000 students, one of the biggest schools in New York City. And I tried out, they put two poles down, they put mats on the floor. And I knew from hockey that you couldn't stay on the mat and block shots. You had to do angle plays. So I was coming out, breaking down the angles, diving on the floor, etc. And the coach said, "This guy's nuts." So I made the JV, and then Andrew took me to his club, which I had no idea these clubs even existed. It was New York Ukrainians in New York City. So I started playing for their junior B team, then junior A, and then the senior team. That's how I met Walter Chisowitz, who later became a big part of my life. And that was my story. My high school career led to my college career, led to my coaching. It's a long story. So I write about my life, but I also write in the book how the different aspects of soccer, grew and developed, and the indoor league, the outdoor leagues, et cetera, and then my role with the national teams. Eventually working MLS and now doing some work with Fox Sports TV.
That's pretty incredible. You mentioned Bronco Horvath. I grew up outside of Rochester, New York, about 4 miles off Lake Ontario, and I used to go watch the Rochester Americans all the time.
Uh-huh.
And Jerry Cheevers was in goal. Al Arbor, who became a coach of Boston, and Bronco Horvath. I all saw them play in the AHL before they went on to the Bruins, which is kind of
Sure.
cool. So
Sure. Al Ardo, one of the great coaches for New York Islanders when they had their run of 4 straight Stanley Cups.
yeah, let me ask you a question, Dr. Joe. Like, what gravitated you to the goalkeeping position? What was that little spark in there that said, okay, I think I want to do this?
Well, it was the only thing. It was the only position on the field I could even manage to play. Because growing up, I played Little League baseball. I played CYO basketball. So I had good eye-to-hand coordination. And back then, as you know, I mean, goalkeeping was about shot stopping. And so, I mean, I could do it. And with my knowledge of angle play and a little bit of courage, and I guess that probably was my biggest thing that I had. I was very good at taking the ball off opponents' feet on the ground and stuff like that. Not so good in the air, but I wasn't the biggest either. So back then, 5'8.5", and had to work on my vertical jump. So it was the only position I could have played. And then when I went to the Ukrainians, like the junior team would play at 11 in the morning, and then the reserve team at 1, and the first team at 3, I would go behind the goal and watch those 2 games. And there were some great goalkeepers in the German American League back then, Geza Henny being one of them. If that name rings a bell, he was national team goalkeeper for Hungary. And then after the Hungarian Revolution, a lot of players came from Hungary, and the New York Hungarians won the Open Cup like 2 or 3 years in a row with those players. So I figured out how to, if a goalkeeper made a great save, I could imitate that. But if the goalkeeper made a blunder, I would eliminate that. So it became, imitating. I imitated those really good goalkeepers back in the day.
So when you started your camps, then what was that stimulus? I mean, obviously you probably saw a need for goalkeeper education. Um, and how did that get going for you? And how did you strike that whole thing up? Well, that's pretty impressive.
Well, soccer camps really took off as we talked about it. I worked at everybody's soccer camp, right? And so they would bring me in for 2 days here, 2 days there. I worked at Hubert Vogelsinger's camp, but I spent a lot of time at Walter Chiswick's camp called the All American Soccer Camp at school. So it was first in Glen Spey, and then later in New Jersey. So I was working with the goalkeepers and putting them through all stuff that I figured out what they needed. And then I began to wonder what was happening to these goalkeepers when I wasn't there. And I know because Gene Chislewitz told me that parents were calling him and saying, "When is Joe Machnik going to be there? I want to send my goalkeeper when he's going to be there." So I said, let me start a camp just for goalkeepers. And everybody said I was crazy because they said, what are you going to teach them for a whole week? There's not enough. There's not that much to learn. After a day and a half, you're going to run out of things to teach them. So so I had to prove them wrong. So in the first year, and this was 1977. So I have to tell you that in 1970, when Detmar Kramer came over for the first coaching schools, I was the only goalkeeper that took that early, license with him. So he had me doing goalkeeping lessons at the coaching schools. So I already began to get a little bit of a following, right? So in the first goalkeeping camp, which was held at the Taft School in Watertown, Connecticut, and actually at the same time that Hubert Vogelsinger was running one of his camps, he allowed me use of the facility, also saying this will never work, So he said, yeah, sure, okay. So we had 39 goalkeepers from 13 states in that first camp, and we must have done a decent job. First of all, Vogelsinger wouldn't let us back the next year, so So we had to find a new facility, which was Loomis Chaffee School in Windsor, fabulous facility. The next year, we had almost 200 goalkeepers
Wow.
from 39 states. And by year 3, we expanded to Chicago and Dallas. By year 5, we were out in LA and other places. And before you knew it, it became a whole summer's work, starting before Memorial Day in Texas, when kids were already out of school, going all the way to almost Labor Day in Connecticut, because the kids didn't start school until after Labor Day. And you know, the staff that we were able to hire, we had coaches, goalkeepers. Actually, we were paying them very well. So I think, you know, we had goalkeepers who were playing in the NASL who wanted to work 2 or 3 days for us because we probably paid them more than they were making for their NASL team, or at least it was extra money for them. So we had great goalkeepers working for us: Zoltan Toth, Alan Maya, Paul Coffey, you name them. So the staff was incredible, and kids just more and more wanted to come to goalkeeper camp.
You know, it's amazing, Dr. Joe. It's kind of like being in the right place at the right time. You know, it's almost like it's a destiny type of thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like I always kind of think of these kinds of things throughout my life is like, why am I here doing what I'm doing? But everything directed me to do this, you know? So
Right.
it seems like that was kind of the same for you. You were just doing your thing, had your interests, wasn't sounds like I was never afraid to take a move on something, and always figured it out. You know, one of the things I've always admired about you is how you thought things through and how you didn't hesitate when you had a feeling that this is what we should do or this is what should be done. And
Yeah.
that, to me, that means a
I
lot.
call it, thank you. I call it being a risk taker.
Yeah, there you go.
So, yeah, and I've taken a lot of risks, actually. For the most part, they worked out. Earlier in our conversation, you mentioned that, you know, later on the goalkeeper camp, we had to bring in field players. And I would like to just explain, because this is about goalkeeping. So, you know, what in the early camps, we were teaching the techniques, how to do things, you know, how to catch, how to dive, how to land, a little bit of angle play. But we could not create, with a camp of just goalkeepers, tactical situations, 2v1, 3v2, for, you know, for the goalkeepers to relate to. Because why? Because they couldn't play soccer. So they were all just like I was. You know, why did I become? Because I could play with my hands and a little bit with my feet. So because they couldn't play soccer, we couldn't really create these situations to develop them as goalkeepers. So we brought in the field players at first to create situations for the goalkeepers, at the same time teaching the field players about going to goal, regardless of where they played on the field. So that it kind of really worked for us.
Yeah. So earlier we talked about you know, the camp influence and how things, you know, they're still training today and the camps have sort of diminished, right? But you were a big influence on a lot of what my philosophy still today is as a goalkeeper coach. And, you know, had to be a thinking player, had to organize the team, make decisions, change outcomes. And so when you mentioned that earlier about how the camps are diminishing because you can get good training, you know, clubs are providing better or good training, and then you can find it on social media with people. What we're finding is exactly the opposite of what you did. You really covered the wide spectrum of what a goalkeeper is, and even used Franz Hoch's term, goal player, someone that is all well-rounded. So, you know, some of the things that really stuck out to me that we're not seeing really taught today, because we're distinguishing between goalkeeper trainers, and goalkeeper coaches, is you were really big on positioning. Footwork was the most important part to get you in position, keep you from diving as much. If you could stay on your feet, that was better. Handling must be simple, right? Repeatable. And so where do you see it today as far as obviously there's a lot more people out there teaching or training. How is that how does that feed in today? Your philosophy still transferring over today when we have so many people that just seem to line kids up and fire shots at them?
Unfortunately, that's probably still the case, and you're right. So you mentioned footwork. For starters, I was doing a clinic in Washington, and a brainstorm came to me that and I put it actually on the t-shirts. It's the feet that get the hands to the ball. So 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 yes, we did
Oh,
tremendous amount of footwork drills. And then, I mentioned the coaching schools and what Detmar Kramer brought to us four pillars of the game. So the physical, the tactical, the psychological, and I'm forgetting the other one for the moment. So the technical, the technical, the physical. So I put those four components and brought them to goalkeeping. So it just became a thinking process. And you mentioned Franz Hook. So Franz Hook first came to America to be at number one goalkeepers camp. I'm not sure that the world knows that, but he wrote to us. He was finishing his playing career in Volendam, and he had heard about the camp from a Dutch coach whose name was Hans Oft, OOFT, who was working in our coaching schools. He told Franz about the camp. So Franz wrote and said, I want to come and see what you're doing. He was already a physical education teacher, as was I. So he came, and then for the next maybe 5 or 6 summers, he was a regular feature at the camp, and he developed his own philosophy, about goalkeeping. We're still friends, obviously, still friends today, and together, I actually took his book, which was written in Dutch, and translated it and Americanized it. And I had it translated. I didn't translate and Americanized it, and that became, for the most part, the goalkeeping book for maybe 10 years. In America, everybody wanted to, and it was I really should redo it, because with all of the changes in the laws of the game, the whole position has changed, and I guess that brings me to your question. So, as the laws of the game changed, goalkeeping had to change. So when I first started playing and when I first started teaching, okay, goalkeepers could handle a pass back, pick it up. They could take a throw in from their own team and handle it. All right. And so teams would, deliberately under defensive pressure, just knock the ball back to the goalkeeper, and then it would be safe. And then, of course, the goalkeeper was allowed to bounce the ball and take some steps, and bounce the ball and take some. There was no time limit, okay, where the goalkeeper then would have to put the ball down, on the field. The referee would be play, play, play. Going way back to 1982 World Cup with Dino Zoff, I think wasted 40 minutes in a game. So the position began to change, and then you had some really far-thinking coaches that said, "Yeah, I mean, the goalkeeper is the first line of attack." Well, we knew that with distribution, with throwing, and somewhat if you were able to kick the ball over the top and spring someone forward, especially if the other team was pressing. And you were able to develop a 2-on-1 or something up top, but now attract the other team to play in your half, knock the ball back to the goalkeeper knock it around, and then goalkeeper play a pass, an intelligent pass, that starts the attack. Now here's the problem: before a game starts, the score is 0-0. That means the goalkeeper has a shutout before the game starts. The primary responsibility of the goalkeeper is to maintain that shutout. Okay, if he or she, we could go back to when girls and women start to play. If he or she maintains the shutout, the worst that can happen is a 0-0 tie. Now, 0-0 ties are not good for the game, but in certain situation, 0-0 tie can advance you to the next round. In one World Cup, Italy played 3 group games 0-0 and advanced. But oft sometimes 0-0 is not enough. So you need to score a goal. And now you figure out, well, how can you play, and this is like Franz Hook's theory, how can you have a system of play that adds up only to 10 players? You know, so like 4-2-4, that equals 10. So what about the 11th player? How are we going to bring that player into the game? Now, so they start working, and this is a problem for me. They start working with the goalkeeper as the goal player totally, okay? Forgetting that if he or she can't stop the ball and maintain the 0-0 shutout, that none of that works. So, and in fact, if we watch even at the highest level, pass backs to the goalkeepers that result in goals for the other team. Because the goalkeeper under pressure can't handle the pressure, doesn't have the foot playing skills, the field playing skills. So there's a balance that has to be reached somewhere. I mean, we got the World Cup coming up right now, and I would be shocked if the U.S. plays in a system of play that relies heavily on the field playing skills of our current goalkeepers. Okay, so because they're not there.
Right.
Now, the only goalkeeper that in the history of U.S. goalkeeping, Tony Meola could do this because he had a right foot, he had a left foot. He was a field player in high school. All right. So in fact, in senior year, he played on the field. So his buddy, Sal Rosamila, could play in the goal. So they were that close. So, and he was a total athlete. I mean, Dave Vanoli, the first goalkeeper, national team goalkeeper that I worked with, he was 5 years in a camp. As a camper, he could not play this way. He had no left foot. He could, and then, I mean, but we had great goalkeepers after Meola, Friedel, Keller, Howard, right? And so the strength of our team was always the goalkeeper, right? And now I'm a little bit worried, no disrespect. And I'm worried not only on their field playing skills, but also their shot stopping, angle play, because it seems that needs to be worked on more that hasn't been worked on because they're working on the other stuff so much.
Right.
I hope that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Well said too, by the way.
Thank you.
Dr. Joe, I was just going to ask you in transition into your refereeing and with Walter's influence to get you the MISL, but you just steered me in a different direction. I'll come back to that.
No, but we have to talk about it. It's one of my favorite times. One of the favorite times of my life, actually. Got so much fun with it.
Well, I was going to go ahead.
Go ahead.
My question was, I'm going to come back to that, the refereeing, because I definitely have some questions about that. Like, what interested you in that? You just said it was some of the best times of your life. I want to learn more about that because referees are kind of like the necessary evil of a game. Like, you have to have them in order for
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's get into that.
Right, so
what attracted you to that?
Well, I mentioned I was a physical education major.
Yep.
So as part of that, you learned how to referee. Okay. So all sports. So I could referee basketball, volleyball, flag football. I was the intramural director at Long Island University when I first started my career. So I loved refereeing, and I actually was refereeing while I was a college player. I was refereing in the PSAL. One referee, no linesman. Okay. Wow. So, and it was a way to make, $15 a game, extra money. So I continued my refereeing when I moved to Connecticut. I became a national referee, actually, refereeing in the Connecticut State League, which was a tough league. And then on a trip with Walter, Olympic B team trip to Puerto Rico, we had 3 games. And so the first game, and we were clearly favored. We took a really good team, what we called Olympic Bees. Many players later played in the NASL. One of them, Joe Maroney, who just recently passed away, Joe Maroney Jr. David Bursick was our goalkeeper on this trip. Yeah, so the first game we lose, and it's Walter's opinion that we got a little bit a home job by the Puerto Rican officials. In the second game, we go up into the mountains to Roberto Clemente's hometown, and we get another couple of dicey calls against us, and the people actually chased our bus, throwing rocks and stones at the bus as we left the field. So Walter says, we're not playing the third game. So he calls a meeting with the Puerto Rican Soccer Federation and says, we're not playing the third game unless you can bring in a neutral referee. And the Federation of Puerto Rico says, well, the game's tomorrow. Where are we going to get a neutral referee? And Walter points at me. So I didn't have anything with me, no referee gear. I mean, I made yellow card and red card out of cardboard. I went to a store and bought a black shirt, dress shirt, and I refereed the game. And by the way, we won it. So, but then, Walter knew that I at least was, I didn't say no to that. I was a risk taker. I had the courage to do it. And so when the indoor league first was being organized by Ed Tepper in Philadelphia, which was where Walter lived, and Earl Foreman, who lived in Washington, became the commissioner, but the office was in Philadelphia. They said to Walter, who can we bring in to be our referee in chief? And because Walter knew or visualized the game as having some hockey components, time penalties, playing off the boards, substitution on a fly, he recommended me to the position of referee in chief of the first professional indoor league. And I loved it. I mean, back then the rule book was like 3 pages. And it said, if something happens on the field that's not in this rule book, the outdoor rule applies. Well, that didn't work at all. So we were constantly updating the rule book based on something that happened on the field. And I did this job. I loved it. I refereed the first All-Star game. And then I refereed the All-Star game in Madison Square Garden, which was a big thrill for me, being in the locker room where the hockey referees used. And I did over 100 games over the first 5 years of that league. And the really important point, I think by year 3, we recognized we needed specialist referees. So the MISL was the first league to hire full-time referees that were concentrated only on that game. And we hired 6 gentlemen, Gino DiPolito being one of them, one of the most famous referees of the greater New York area, Herb Silva, Bill Maxwell, others. And they refereed the majority of the games. And now we see that many of our referees working MLS are full-time referees. And it was because I organized the first full-time referee program in the indoor league that the outdoor league came to me in year 2 and said, please help us with the referee program.
How rigorous is that education?
But to become a referee or to,
Yeah.
It's feel for the game is something that you can't teach. So it's like management. You can study management, but you can't teach somebody to be a manager. So they either have it or they don't have it. It's like leadership. You can study leadership, but you can't teach someone to be a leader. These are all my opinions, I guess. But so if you played a little bit and if you coached a little bit, and if you've watched a lot of soccer, both in person and on television, you may develop a feel for the game. What the Germans call Fingerspitzengefühl. So it's actually
Spell that?
Pardon? I can spell it. Yeah,
Spell that.
good.
I'm kidding.
And the only I can write it, but the only thing I have no umlaut on my typewriter. So
Ah,
yeah. But yeah. So it's difficult. That's how I became a referee.
that's interesting.
Well, question. You may then know my good friend and mentor because he won a world championship at the Cleveland Crunch, Gary Henley.
Of course.
He knows everybody. Gary knows
Yeah, of course. I'm back. How is Gary? Is he still with us?
He is. He is living the life in Marco Island, Florida, with a pool in the backyard right next to the canal and loving life. Now he just had a bout and he's overcome it with some cancer, but he is doing fine. He's doing great.
Great. Well, please say hello to him. Yeah, I mean, back then, the soccer community was small.
Yeah.
I like to say to people that ask me that maybe there were 100 guys, that took their licenses in the early days of the coaching schools and then went out and spread the gospel of soccer to America. And of course, that's not to exclude those NASL teams that ran camps and some of their coaches and players stayed and did and in the communities as well. But that that's how it all began.
We will be back after this message from our sponsors.
Goalkeeper coaches, are you spread too thin? Are you coaching small groups? Are you coaching at a club? Are you coaching private sessions? Are you coaching in college? Are you selling equipment? Are you selling gloves? Are you running your own camps? Are you running your own clinics? Simply put, everybody, goalkeeper coaches have a lot going on and they need at least 4 to 5 resources to make it work as a goalkeeper coach. Here at the United Goalkeeping Alliance, we're here to help all goalkeeper coaches with their development in their goalkeeper coaching careers. For $99 a year, yes, a cup of coffee a month, you will join the United Goalkeeping Alliance as a goalkeeper coach and have the opportunity to collaborate with over 175 goalkeeper coaches worldwide. You'll have an immediate connection into the collegiate game to be able to share your highlight film of your goalkeepers, in addition to the ability to recruit if you are a goalkeeper coach at the collegiate level. You'll have 24/7 online and live support with business ideas, curriculum, and lesson plan support. We will also promote your club, your academy, your equipment, and anything that you do through our social media outlets. Last but not least, and definitely an important variable, all UGKA coaches have the opportunity to earn 50% commissions on all clubs and goalkeepers that they bring in to the United Goalkeeping Alliance. If you'd like to learn more, please reach out to me, proud board member Eric Eisenhut of the United Goalkeeping Alliance, at the contact information above. Thank you for listening, and back to our episode.
And now back to our episode.
Yeah.
I got a question in regard to protecting the goalkeeper by officials protecting the goalkeeper. And I have a certain instance I'd like to share with you. You may or may not have heard that this happening in the past, but it was a goalkeeper that I trained out of Jersey. It was female, started for Ohio State, and they were playing Minnesota in Minnesota, and Minnesota had a very talented striker. Big girl, I think about 6 feet or something like that. Very strong, very quick, very powerful. And the goalkeeper from Ohio State went up for a high ball, yelled out keeper, correct leg going up and everything. And this player from Minnesota came in and kneed her in the ribs, broke 3 of her ribs, punctured her lung, and her kidney was cut in half. That's how traumatic it was. The girl never even got a yellow card. Fast forward, the goalkeeper that got injured had to stay in Minnesota for 3 weeks before she could get back to Ohio for attention. But the second string goalkeeper came in, the number 2, I should say, and went up for a ball in the second half, and the same girl came in and did her. And then finally, the official threw out a card. Now, the girl from Jersey's father is a friend of mine, and he was absolutely livid. I mean, first of all, he almost lost his daughter, and he was all set to create a lawsuit and go and do whatever he could to go after this person because of his lack of ability to be able to control the game. I don't know if these situations like that occur much anymore, but there seems to be a lot of confrontations at times, especially like in corner kicks and stuff like that. How are these officials trained? Are they trained to try and protect the goalkeeper? Do they, in that situation with Ohio and Minnesota, there should have been a card immediately, at least to try and get things under control. But it wasn't done, and therefore the game stayed out of control. How do you deal with those types of situations in the officiating world, if that's a fair question?
Very fair question. So we talked about feel for the game. So you have to understand that when the goalkeeper comes out, especially for a ball in the air, that he or she is vulnerable, and when hit while they're reaching with their arms exposed to reach for the ball, it's a very dangerous situation and should be whistled for a foul, and a yellow card or sometimes even a red card.
Right.
So unfortunately, some pundits or others say that goalkeepers are taking advantage of the protection that they receive from the referees in some cases, and by coming out and lifting their knee when they're jumping for the ball. But the same people don't understand that you can't jump and get to the height of your height unless you're using the big muscle, the thigh muscle, and of one leg that helps you jump to that height. So this is the field of what people don't understand what it takes to perform the skill. So that needs to be part of referee training to be sure. What we're seeing now is really a struggle, because some teams, and we just saw it, what, 2 weeks ago or 10 days ago, some teams are fronting the goalkeeper on corner kicks.
Hmm.
Some are making physical contact with the goalkeeper before the ball is put into play by design. So this knocks the goalkeeper or a little bit off position or unbalances them. And then the ball is played. So that needs to be whistled. First of all, if you see it before the ball is played, that's easy. Okay, because now you could yellow card the player that does it, but the corner kick still must be taken. Once the restart, you have to start with the restart. So I think the next focus point or the next initiative of refereeing in the world will be how to control what's taking place in the penalty area on corner kicks and free kicks coming from the side when you got 8, 10, 12 players, okay? And that the goalkeeper needs to be protected. Now, there's a part of the laws of the game impeding the progress. So it's legal for a field player to take a stance, and you can take the stance in front of the goalkeeper. That's legal. Okay, but once the ball is played, okay, the field player has to make an effort to go in the direction of the ball. Otherwise, impeding the progress of the goalkeeper, who's also trying to get to the direction of the ball, should be whistled automatically. Okay, and then again, some people will say, well, that's overprotection of the goalkeeper. And we have seen instances where goalkeepers have come off their line and injured field players by their over-aggressive and sometimes dangerous way they do it, feet first, and other situations like that. I mean, the worst one, I think it's '82 World Cup, right? Where the French player Battisson is taken out by the German goalkeeper way outside of the penalty area even. And it's like, play on. So, anyway.
I was just having this discussion with probably someone you know very well, S.C. Bahamas.
Yeah.
He was here in Chattanooga for our tournament, doing re-mentoring and everything. And we were talking about this very thing. And he said, literally, in most corner kick situations, he gave the EPL as an example. He said there could be a PK called or a foul going out of the box the other way on every one of them.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone. I mean, what was the game where, I mean, they disallowed a goal, went to VAR, they disallowed a goal, saying that the goal shouldn't have been scored. There was like they identified 17 fouls on the play.
Yeah, that was Arsenal versus West Ham just here recently. Yeah. So
how's it for you, Dr. Joe? How's it for you when that situation occurs, VAR comes up, and now the commentator starts saying, "Okay, Dr. Joe, what do you think?" How does that? I'm sure you're very used to handling those situations, but is it ever uncomfortable for you at all?
Well, that's a good question. So I don't know if you can see. I'm going to move my screen a little bit. Right there
Yeah.
is what they call a home cam, and up there you see one of the lights, and then this way is a giant screen that they use as a backdrop. So even in my home, I sometimes work watching the games on the monitor on the home cam. So it's you have to be ready. Obviously, you're concentrating the whole time on the game. I mean, you're staring at it. And obviously, you have to know the laws of the game. You have to know what happened before in the game. You have to read the body language of the referee, and have a feel for the game. So, for example, in the men's final in Russia, Croatia, France, I think there was a handball, right? And it's like right here, and it was a deflection from a player, and it kind of hit the guy in the hand. It was a really difficult decision, and the referee goes to the monitor, and they want me, the people at Fox, the producers, they want me to say what the referee's decision will be before the decision is made.
Mm.
Okay, so that's the tricky part. So have to put all of that together, process all of that together, see how long it takes for the referee to look, try to understand what they're thinking about, what they're seeing. Hopefully, I'm seeing the same video that he or she is seeing, and you need to have educated guesswork. So, which is one of the components of what good refereeing is. The refereeing is all about angles, and you can't see everything. So when you see an angle or don't see an angle, you get. Anyway, I was able to say it's going to be a handball, but what I used was the other handballs that were called previously in the tournament, that the referee was going to be consistent with those. Okay, so I was right on that one. Similarly, with Tori Penso refereeing the women's game, which involved England. There was a handball very close, but clearly the player moved her hand to the ball. Tori was so close to the play that I don't know that she saw it, because sometimes you're so close you don't see it. It's that way. So, and I know she didn't want to call what she didn't see. And they're like, she's going with her ear. VAR is saying to her, "You got to come see this. You got to come see this." VAR doesn't make the call. The referee must make the final decision. VAR suggests to the referee, "Come and look at this. I can show you a different angle." Okay, so I know I'm reading her body language. I know her, and I'm saying she doesn't want to give a penalty here, but when she sees this video, she will have to. And I was able to say that on air, and then she came away from the monitor and said, "Penalty. Player missed the penalty anyway."
Yeah, justice.
So I say I'm 85% right, and the other 15%, the referee was wrong.
Well played. Well played.
That's great.
Yeah.
That is great.
I want to go back to before we got into the referee, which is fascinating. I love the stories. And go back to, so Dr. Joe, you helped shape basically a golden era of American goalkeeping, right? When we were having the top level keepers, they were playing internationally. There was Keller, Howard, Scurry, Solo, Friedel, Miola.
Let me interrupt. So at one time at the early days of MLS, 5 starting MLS goalkeepers were graduates of the camp as campers. Wow. Nick Raimondo,
yep,
Kevin Hartman, Joe Cannon, John Bush, and Matt Reese.
Bushy.
That's
Bushy.
awesome.
We're
That's
gonna,
A lot
awesome.
yeah,
of great goalkeepers right there. Dang.
yeah, 3 great ones.
That's impressive.
So why do you think in the last, well, since how that the United States just hasn't produced a goalkeeper that has been able to reach world-class tier? I mean, from your perspective, like, is it the shift in youth development? And I work with the ODP level at the state, region, and with the national level. And to your point earlier, they sort of lost the focus on the shot stopping part. It's now about with the feet, building out of the back, and we're almost building robots instead of, like you said, with coaches or referees, the feel of the game, right? To read it. Or do you think it's reduced volume of real game reps? I mean, from your perspective, why do you think we're not developing goalkeepers? Because as of right now, I have not heard a starter named for our team for the World Cup.
And that concerns, as it concerns you, it has to be of concern to every fan of U.S. soccer. I think the answer is all of the things. I mean, I don't know why we haven't developed. The goalkeepers you mentioned, they all had a physical presence, okay, in front of the goal. So, and it was certainly important in CONCACAF, and where a Miola, a Howard, I mean, they could dominate the penalty area in most CONCACAF games because of the size, the strength, the power, and they did. But what I'm seeing now is that we don't have even the same physical specimen in front of the goal, and we have a lot of taking of a back seat on situations where I think the goalkeeper should play, like passive mistakes instead of aggressive mistakes. So for me, I was always teaching, hey, if the guy's going to head the ball from 6, 8 yards, it's going to be a goal. So how can you allow a ball to drop or be headed, be it headed by an attacking player or even a teammate? How can you allow that to it has to be your ball, And if you establish yourself physically in front of the goal early, or if they know you by reputation, okay, then you're not going to go for the ball in the same way. Right? So, I mean, everybody is concerned about their own health on the field. The goalkeeper has this advantage if they have the physical stature to get it done. I don't, with all due respect, see that same physical stature. So I don't know if we're not attracting, all of a sudden the position's not attractive enough, or has it become too difficult? I mean, I just don't know 100% of the answer, and of why we don't have the same physical presence in front of the goal that was always part of our team.
You know what, Dr. Joe? One of the things I always ask goalkeepers, like, let's say I call the goalkeepers over to after a drink of water and they're walking out, and you ask them to get out here quickly. And I say, what is our number? What is our positional number on the field? And they all say their number on their back. I said, no. What is our positional number? And this is kind of something where Franz's goal player could probably even help bring more attention. These kids don't even know their number, that we're number one. And then I says, what does that number mean? And then they start, okay, yeah, it's important, but well, yeah, it's number one. That means you set standards above everybody else. And part of that standard is the presence. And I asked them, what is presence? They cannot answer that question. And I go, and that's why I tell these kids, I say, I drive by a youth game and I see the team down, the 12-year-old, 13-year-old game, and they're down, the ball's down at the other end. The goalkeepers are sitting in their goal, hands on the hips, looking around. They have no presence. They don't understand it. It's not being taught. And so to kind of like going along with your question there as to why is because I don't think they understand it. Number one. Number two, we don't always get the best athletes to come into the position. They want something else because of more glory, I guess. I don't know. But there's a disconnect there. And I think it's starting from the younger kids. Since we lost, Tim is out of the game stuff. We have okay people in there playing, but we don't have people in there that have the presence, like you say, that have the courage, the bit of craziness, the fun of being able to do that. To me, that was attractive to the position to be able to fly around and then just come out and get in the crowd and yell keeper and be physical, stuff like that. So the word presence to me is a major thing I try to teach. How do you communicate? Are you quiet? Do you stand or are you animated? Do you get to know your players? Do you go up and talk to them? Do you get on their cases when they're not doing something? Stuff like that, and they're completely afraid to do that. And I don't know why.
Yeah. Those are all really good things to think about. Um, I don't know. Maybe it's fear, the
Hmm.
fear of failure. It is the only position where on the field where you're spotlighted when you fail.
Mhm.
And that one mistake could be the determinant of the result. So that's a major responsibility. Maybe you talk about the number one. So I mean, kids don't know that back in the day, number two was the right back, number three was the left back, number four was the right,
Yeah.
five was the center midfield. They don't know any of that, kind of stuff. And you see players on the field today with, number 59. So so so
Like how did you, Dr. Joe, like was that any type of a noticeable situation that you noticed when you were starting your goalkeeper training or coaching business and philosophies and stuff? Did you notice the lack of presence? And if so, how did you try to develop that? I think that could be helpful for other people to understand.
yeah, I think you have to be, really demanding. It's situational. When you create these situations and for for goalkeeper and you're the coach behind the goal, working with the goalkeeper, dealing with the situation, you have to be demanding. You have to, he or she needs to know what the immediate danger is, and what the secondary danger is, and don't worry only about the immediate danger.
We will be back after this message from our sponsors.
Goalkeepers, what does your goalkeeping development roadmap look like? Are you focusing on all 5 elements of development of a goalkeeper? Those 5 elements are your technical abilities, your tactical understanding of the game, your physical growth, your psychological balance, and your leadership skills. If you answered no to any of those elements of development, you are not fully developing yourself as a goalkeeper. Here at the United Goalkeeping Alliance, we focus on developing goalkeepers through education of goalkeeping specific moments in the game, all while featuring the 5 elements of a goalkeeper's development. For $199 for the year, yes, the cost of 2 one-hour private training sessions, you will have the opportunity to participate in weekly live educational sessions on goalkeeping specific topics. You can also take advantage of our library of over 250 hours of recorded goalkeeping educational content. You have the opportunity to participate in goalkeeping specific mentorships. You'll have an immediate connection to college goalkeeper coaches. You'll also have the opportunity to have 24/7 online support. You'll also receive discounts for gloves, equipment, camps, and clinics. So goalkeepers, if you'd like to learn more on how the United Goalkeeping Alliance can support you with your goalkeeping developmental roadmap, please contact us at the information above. I'm Eric Eisenhut of the United Goalkeeping Alliance. Now back to our podcast.
And now back to our episode.
One of the things that also has changed, because now I'm thinking about it, we do have some goalkeepers in the rest of the world, in Europe and elsewhere, that are 6'6", 6'8", right?
Mhm.
And they have developed a style of shot stopping. I don't know what they call it. Some call it the spider or whatever, where they come out and one arm is up, the other arm is down, the knee is
Oh,
bent. And rather than uh, challenge a player to get the ball before the player shoots or at the same time the player shoots or immediately after the player shoots, I'm talking where that player is free, is lining up to shoot the ball, they develop this stance. And if you're 6'6", and if the angle is good, this is Neuer. You can picture Neuer, right? You can do that, and they hit them. The ball hits them. They're not really making a save. The ball hits them. But you can't teach that stance. That stance is not related to a kid who's not 5 feet tall. You're teaching young goalkeepers. So you have to teach a different game, a different, a more challenging, a more physical, a more risk-taking game. So, I'm just thinking now, because you stimulated this thought. Are they watching these guys on television, right? In the big games, because everybody's watching Champions League and FA or whatever. And then they say, well, this is how they play. Why am I needing to play differently and not taking these risks and chances and developing this presence?
Dr. Joe, you hit a great point right there. I was working with goalkeepers. I had 3 pretty high-level goalkeepers last night with training in 1v1 breakaway situations, making decisions. I try to hit on making decisions. And we worked on a little progression, and the part of the progression was hitting a through ball on an angle, kind of going away from the goal a little bit, but having somebody charging onto him to kind of give him a little bit of a threat. And 8 out of 10 times, the goalkeeper would pull up and go into the block save instead of going in and taking an extra step with the advantage of your hands being able to extend first, and get there. They were pulling back because I think it was a fear thing. But then the kid would come on and rip the ball at him, and I think, they're getting hit in the head. I mean, that's even more fearful to me, And I don't think these kids realize is that, first of all, the ball's coming towards you in a 1v1 situation. So that's your advantage. Number 2, and I always give this demonstration, you put an attacking player and a goalkeeper each 5 yards apart on opposite sides of the ball. And I always ask the question, what does a field player have to do to get to that ball? Their foot has got to be somewhere around the ball in order to hit it. The goalkeepers don't realize they could probably take off from 5-6 feet away and go in with their hands and beat them.
Yeah,
once we got
without
that
a doubt.
point, so once we got that point to these kids, and all of a sudden the fear started coming over and they started having more success. And instead of pulling up, but it was really almost like it's ingrained in their heads to stop, put up the wall, take the hit.
Yeah.
And so to me, we're teaching the wrong thing. There's purposes for those kinds of shots. I get that.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And this is at the striker camp. We started teaching the toe poke. You're running onto a through ball, and the goalkeeper's coming out to confront you. And with a toe poke, you completely fool the goalkeeper who's prepared for you to bend the foot, to hit it with the instep or whatever. So many great goals are scored with a toe poke, and kids will say, well, my coach told me never to kick the ball with your toe. Okay.
But going back to that save, it's been called the K save, the spread save. There's so many terms for it. And I used to not teach it because I was like you. I believed in being aggressive, go with my hands. I have more control. But I see value in it. I just think it's the most overcoached save, incorrect in when you do it, as any save part of goalkeeping right now. And it goes back to trainers trying to find a niche. Like, okay, so like, it looks new and here's how you do it. And I see exactly what you see, Paul and Dr. Jones.
It worked in indoor soccer when the goal was small.
Yeah.
And it works for outdoor soccer when the goalkeeper is big.
Yeah. Yeah. Or if you are going to be small, if you can get within 3 feet of them, a yard, and make yourself big, it can work there. But still, there's been research done with heat maps that show a goalkeeper makes a higher percentage of 1v1 saves if they get set at the moment they think, if they can't get into the ball, if they get set, now try to make the save with their hands, react to it, than they do if they go into the K save, spread save. And I'm just a firm believer that the hands, you have far more control with that in reactions, maybe where you can push the ball into a safer area than just a straight rebound. But
it's a question of angles too. So a lot of that works when the play is coming from a wider position, but when it's coming down straight, relatively straight within the confines of the goal, so to speak, For me, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Nice to hear, by the way,
Yeah, but
Dr.
you
Joe.
think-
Thank you.
What do you think are, we've already talked about some of the problems. What do you think some of the solutions are with this? Because is it the coach education in our country? Because I mean, now I'm a coach educator. I teach licensing courses. You can't take the goalkeeper course, which is a C course, until you get your C license. You still have the United Soccer Coaches pathway with some of their diplomas. But do you think it's a coach education problem that we're not maybe opening up the pool to people who want to be goalkeeper coaches, not trainers, and so they're seeking other avenues in which to learn how to coach or teach? What do you think some solutions are?
Does anyone think that to really be a goalkeeper coach that you should have been a goalkeeper to start with?
Helps.
Huh?
It helps.
So you talk about feel for the game. I mean, so if you felt some of that pain, if you can translate that into what you say to the player, it makes a big difference. I think. I mean, that would be like for me, someone asking me to go and teach, strikers. I have a strikers camp, but I don't do the striking part of the lesson. I bring in the people who know how to do it, who can talk about it, who have lived it, or do whatever. But as far as the goalkeeping thing, I think that was my strength. The fact that I could teach a little bit. I was a phys ed major, but I already had felt what was necessary. And as something was happening, I was in my head developing what's the next step? What does a goalkeeper need to do? And the choice of words, everything resonated with the player. So I'm not saying, hey, look, I'm not saying if you weren't a goalkeeper, you can't be a goalkeeper coach. I'm not saying that whatsoever. Okay, but it certainly would be helpful, I think.
And so, are there any other solutions that you think are out there to help us get back to where we were with world-class goalkeepers?
I think first we got to get the player who really wants to pay the price and has the physical attributes to get it done, and then work with that player in every aspect of the game, not just as a total player, but as a goal player. I think, and I have been to some of Franz's lectures. He did one at at the last coaching convention. Wasn't well attended, but he's almost saying to a point that previous goalkeeper training, where the coach takes the goalkeeper to the side and works on this and works on that, is no longer relevant. That all of the training has to be as a goal player, and I'm not sure I'm buying that.
I think there has to be balance to this.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say,
I was at that
resolution?
presentation, Dr. Joe, and I was disappointed on the lack of people. To me, first of all, having somebody with Franz putting a presentation with his reputation, world reputation, that room should have been packed.
Right.
Now, fast forward, Eric got me to go out to Kentucky Youth Soccer for their youth program as a guest speaker. And I did a lecture and a field session. And it's all about developing goalkeeper culture. What do we need, And I had, in the lecture, I had 10 people, all goalkeeper people. And afterwards, I went right out to the organizers of that event, and I said, that room should have been packed with head coaches. It should have been packed with head coaches. That was that whole thing, because that's where we got to start getting more support.
Yeah.
So I get exactly what you're saying. It was just a lack, I don't know if we're not advertising it properly. To have a name like yours involved, a name like Franz Holt's involved, or other people, Phil Wedden involved, those kinds of names, you got to get the people should just pack the room, not just goalkeeping people, but coaches, because that's a disconnect, and we're seeing it all the time, right, Eric?
Do we not do we believe that that is a result of what though? I don't think it's the marketing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's a head coach like disconnect between they need to understand certain aspects of goalkeeping in the culture that it provides. And I think there's a disconnect there, in my opinion. I don't know what that solution is, to be truthful. And that's something I want to even get back into with some of the innate skills, Dr. Joe, you were talking about: management, leadership. We've identified presence as almost an innate skill these people have to have. Maybe, I'm just throwing these out there. Is our identification process flawed in how we identify goalkeepers that have all those innate skills in the right size, the right attitude?
Now, when they walk into the room, you can tell somebody who has presence, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So those are the people you first have to identify.
Yeah, I call it owning the room, right? You go out,
Owning the
you
room.
come in, you own the room, and
Yep.
and you can pick that out real fast in a goalkeeper training session. The kids that come in and boom, they're right there. What's going on? They're the first ones
Yeah.
there. They're interject. The other ones kind of saunter up, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, the percentages of the keepers are on the latter side. You know.
Yeah. I mean, you're doing like outdoor field session, like you say, and you got 4 or 5 or more goalkeepers, and one of them's on the sideline, just can't wait to get in there,
Yeah.
right, and show you how good he or she is, and the others are like, maybe.
Have you seen in your experience of watching games at all levels, um, ho- the lack of knowledge or understanding of the goalkeeping position from head coach's point of views? I mean, do you think that's something that is just a part of the game? Is that something that could be changed or should be changed? Should the head coaches, like, for example, like Don was saying, you got to go through a C course, field course, just to get to the goalkeeping course? To me, that
Yeah.
makes absolutely no sense. And why don't we ask or require head coaches to have to take a goalkeeping course? Is
Well, but one of the reasons is because it's easier for them to hire this goalkeeping specialist.
right.
So they don't want to, unless the head coach has been a goalkeeper, and that's rare.
Yeah.
Then the easy out is to hire someone to take care of the goalkeepers. So they have no interest really in that strange position. It's foreign to them. That's about it.
It's kind of
Yeah.
crazy that we require these head coaches to coach 10 people, not 11, when it comes to the overall success of the team.
Well, see, yes. And as long as that takes place in an environment where that goalkeeper is also receiving specific goalkeeper training on how to keep the ball out of the net.
hmm Yeah,
The
Tim
two
Moulton,
things belong together, and I don't think we can just specialize on the goal player only in our modern day teaching of our young goalkeepers moving forward.
yeah, I agree with you because one of the big things I see the problem with goalkeepers, like I'm with the New Jersey ODP, and the problem is we only get to meet as a group 6 times a year, and then we play some games, so they don't always know the people in front of them. But it's rarely taught how the goalkeepers and defense work organization together.
Yeah,
And so when they get to a match, nobody knows anybody's name.
right.
They don't know how to move the defensive backs.
And that was Franz's lesson that
Yeah,
we both attended. That was
yes, it was.
really the focus point of his entire lesson.
The other thing I liked
Yeah.
about his lesson too, Dr. Joe, was the fact that how many options a goalkeeper actually has in building out of the back.
Because
Instead,
he has no options if the field players don't give him any.
yeah, very good. Great point. That's a great
Yeah,
point. Yeah,
except to whack the ball.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Joe, what would you add to goal player to make it satisfy your requirements? Like you say, like, I don't think that's the only thing. We need more almost. Like, what additional stuff might be needed to the goal player thought process for you to be satisfied?
I think that's the easy one. It's the specific goalkeeping training that makes the goalkeeper to have the presence to be able to deal with crosses, to be a decent shot stopper, to organize the defense, yes, but also support the defense. I'm not, I'm just not seeing what used to be goalkeeper training translating into the modern goalkeeper training that's focusing on the goal player.
Well,
It's
a lot
the
of
same,
people
it's
say
the same thing almost with the field players, where it's only the play, practice, play. Everything's done in the game. And it's only been within the last couple of years that the Federation has changed their curriculum to say, yes, there is a place for the field players to go over and work on a technical aspect of the game to refine that before you actually go into the game. And before that, the whole premise was built about, kids learn the technique or will learn it from playing basically street soccer, just playing small-sided games. And while that is true, I do believe there's a part to that. I don't believe we have the culture here in this country where kids are playing all the time to do. So they have to have that time in which a coach would specifically train a technical aspect. Same with goalkeeping. I don't think you can fully train goalkeeper, the technical aspects of handling and footwork and all that, just inside of game scenarios all the time.
Right. Gentlemen, I have another appointment that I need to get to. You mentioned that you might want to mention about my book. So it's called From the Sandlots, and that's, of course, the fields we played on in New York City back in the day in the 50s and 60s. They were all sandlots and mud pits and whatever. From the Sandlots to the World Cup. Inside 7 decades of American soccer. And it's available on Amazon.com in several formats: paperback, full color hardcover, and as an ebook. So
there it is.
I think you would enjoy it. I think the listeners would enjoy it. There's a fair amount about goalkeeping, obviously, both in my days as a player, as a coach, and developing the goalkeeper camp, my role with the national team, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a labor of love, and 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 I have to hopes that everyone enjoys it.
Yeah, well, we will definitely push it, and I'm looking forward to reading it.
You've already bought it on Amazon.
Yeah, I already got it. Yeah, I got it before you guys.
Yeah, man, Eric is sending our addresses in.
But
Paul, if you didn't buy the hardcover, which is in full color, if you didn't buy the hardcover, also send me your address, and I'll send you a hardcover.
You're a good man. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Hooking you up, Paul.
Yeah.
Hey.
So listen, Dr. Joe, thank you so much. It's been a complete honor for all of us to have you on board here, and you've been a really honored guest for us.
Appreciate it.
And as somebody who, like what Don was saying, and with Eric, you got me going in my career. You helped me get started when I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And now I have a chance to sit here and talk with you. And you've also been very gracious at any convention. You've always said hi, and which I really appreciate.
Well, I thank you. And I'm surprised we haven't done this before. So it's taken a while, but great. I'm happy to have done it. And if maybe after the World Cup, we can do another one and analyze the plays of the goalkeepers in the World Cup and see what we see.
Awesome.
That would be
awesome.
Well, all right, we're going to take you up on that, Dr. Joe.
Okay, we might even talk about officiating on that one.
We'll see how they do in the World Cup.
Okay,
Dr. Joe, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
What we're going to do right now, Dr. Joe, we're going to let you go because I know you're busy. We're going to hang on for about 15 minutes and talk over the session with you, and then we'll finish off recording that way.
Okay, should I sign out?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Great to see you. Thank you, Dr. Joe.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, Dr. Joe. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Okay.
Oh, wow.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Quite a man.
What was the one thing that stood out?
That everything really that he covered early on in his first book and then his second book is still so relevant today.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I mean, as much as things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
And as much as we always, not just goalkeeper coaches, I'm just talking life in general, we're always looking for the bigger, faster, better way to do things, where sometimes the old, tried and true methods are still the most effective.
Yeah.
And we forget that. And I think sometimes that's part of our problem in our positional as far as coaching. I'll say any sport is that we forget that the way we did things in the past, they're not always bad. They're not wrong. They're just another way, and they could be more effective. But again, I think he said it takes perspective and it takes balance in everything. So that's a big takeaway from me.
Yeah. Eric,
I mean, that book, his second book came out in 1980.
Yeah. That's amazing, isn't it?
All right. So, I mean, you think about that. That's what, 46 years? Is my math right? I'm not a math.
Do you need a calculator with that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't ask me.
I got 3 degrees and they are not in math, I'm telling you. So, but how, I mean, just how relevant it is, his stuff is today. So,
yeah.
And of course, when I hear, hey, if the feet can't get the shot, the hands don't matter. I'm like, I preach that to my kids all the time.
Yes,
that
you
is
do.
like top of the 10 commandments written on the stone tablet, baby. That's it. So,
hey, why don't we write some 10 commandments for goalkeeping?
10 commandments of goalkeeping?
Yeah.
Not a bad idea.
All right, let's work on that.
Right.
What do you think, Eric? What do you think of the?
Oh man, think about this, right? Like, how long has it taken us as a United Goalkeeping Alliance to get to our curriculum to include all moments of the game, and then within those moments, the 5 elements of development and breaking them down? He was referencing 4 of the 5 elements of development back in the 70s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then he's talking about, like, with goal player, his comments seem to be around, it's not the only aspect of goalkeeping. Like, we're missing out on the fundamentals of shot stopping, taking it across, dealing with a one-on-one. So then back to the moments of the game. Like, he was really ahead of his time. And it's insane that he is just saw it before many, many people did decades ago. That to me was probably the most impressive component to that. Like, he was really looking forward, and he didn't even know it at the time. You know what I mean? Like, you really nailed it. To Don's point, like, sometimes the more things change, the more things stay the same.
Yeah. I really enjoyed a lot of the officiating aspect of thing, though. And that could have gone on for a long, long time, but his experiences there and what I liked what the insides were of the VAR review and stuff, the pressure's on him. A lot of pressure on him, and he has to be paying attention to the game all the time, and it's got to do some quick thinking and analyze everything in the proper way, and then give his recommendation on World TV. That's pretty interesting stuff. But he's a good man. He's what he's done for our game and our position in his lifetime is immeasurable. Let
me ask a question. This came across. What of the goalkeeper coaches that we know are going to take up the mantle, so to speak, of the Dr. Joes or the Franz Hoeks of our time? Right?
Yeah, who is it, right?
And I mean legitimate. I don't mean this fly-by-night guy that jumps in like with a niche or something like that. Somebody that is really going to take it and expand on it. To have the influence that those two have had since the 70s. I relate this back to classic rock, right? Based on today's pop stuff going on. Sure. I don't know anything going on today that is going to be 50 years from now. You're going to be playing and you're going to be going, oh yeah, right. But you listen to like Black Sabbath, Queen, Led Zeppelin, you're going, that's it. That's the greatest ever. I don't know, it damn sure isn't going to be Taylor Swift, but
Oh, you just lost a whole section of our oh boy.
The United Goalkeeping Alliance does not give permission or
No,
uphold these opinions.
That's a Don Maples comment,
Maples.
everybody. That is a Don Maples comment. Let's be clear. But to that point, Don, ready? Like Dr. Joe, Franz Hoke, Tony DeChico, Danny Gaspar, and Peter Muller. And then it kind of like halts for like 20 years, maybe more. So you're like, who is that next person? You know, it is hard. It's really hard to identify that. And Franz is doing his best to keep that going right now. Obviously, Dr. Joe's doing his job, but you know, he's part of Fox Sports that has rules analysis. Who's taking over that goalkeeper coaching position within the US to really take us to the next level?
We will be back after this message from our sponsors.
Hello, clubs. What is your goalkeeper culture like? Do you have 1 to 2 people that just does it all? Whether they're down the other end of the field running a goalkeeper training session, maybe they're helping a head coach out in a team training session. Maybe they attend all tournaments and games and give in-game feedback. They help with individual development plans. They help in the recruiting initiative. Simply put, they can't do it all. Here at the United Goalkeeping Alliance, we're here to be your supplemental resource for all things goalkeeping. We start with education. We will help assist in the goalkeeping development through educating your goalkeepers on goalkeeping specific topics featuring the 5 elements of development: your tactical understanding, your technical abilities, the physical growth of a goalkeeper, the psychological balance, and the leadership skills needed to be a great goalkeeper. We have over 250 hours of recorded content for all of your goalkeepers and coaches and parents to take advantage of. We offer mentorships for both goalkeepers and goalkeeper coaches. We offer lesson plan support and curriculum support for coaches. If you'd like to learn more about the United Goalkeeping Alliance and how we can help your club get to the next level with your goalkeeping culture as a supplemental resource, please utilize the contact information above. This is Eric Eisenhut of the United Goalkeeping Alliance, and now back to the episode.
And now back to our episode.
Because one of the things that was intriguing to me too, and I want to talk to you guys about this. He mentioned some of these skills are innate skills, like you have them or you don't, in his opinion. And it was management, leadership. We talked about presence. Do you guys agree with that, or do you feel that can be taught and influenced?
I think it has to be. It has to be in there. It has to be in there. You know, you might get people to kind of get out of their shell a little bit in advance, but will they ever get to the level of like a Tony Meal, a Tim Howard, those kinds of people who just had it when they walked on the bloody field? You know, even when they were kids. You know, I can remember when Tim came to camp in 7th grade. You know, his technical ability was good, but it was still needed a lot of development. But his athleticism was ridiculous, and everybody in camp said that kid's athleticism is the best of any player here out of 600 kids. You know, I mean, so there's something about your presence when you walk on the field that that person's got it. You know, I worked with a 12-year-old kid last week, guys. One of the inner city kids that I'm working with through Charlie Inverso and Chris Snyder and the Mooch program. 12-year-old kid. And Charlie sent me a video of him throwing a football, and the guy looked like a professional quarterback, 12 years old. And then I met him, very shy kid, but he walked on the field, and I said, there's a bloody athlete. Charlie thinks, this could be another Tim Howard. I mean, just by the way he carries himself, although he's very shy. We need to develop other aspects of his persona and so on. But I told the kid how to use his eyes to catch the ball, and he caught everything. I mean, it was like ridiculous. You know, he was fumbling and bumbling the ball, and I said, just see the ball after it's in your hand. Boom, nailed it. I said, you know, that's rare. So, you know, there are diamonds in the rough out there, I think. I don't think we're finding enough of them now. I don't think we're searching in the right way. You know, like they say, everybody say, get in the inner cities. These kids are good, and they're looking a way to get out. And you know, there's a lot of talent there.
Even regarding that, like from an identification process perspective, I don't know if it's finding the diamond in the rough, or it's just we're not identifying goalkeepers properly here in the country. Like, I think that's a big problem. I don't think we know how to identify goalkeepers. I truly don't, unfortunately.
Okay, well, head coach goes back to head coaches that are picking them in the clubs. They don't come talk to us, and I'll give you personal experience. They'll come ask me, like, hey, could you come over here and look at this kid or whatever like that? And I'll give them my feedback, and they ignore it. Okay, well, that was a waste of my time, right? You're not learning anything from that. What I'm looking at, but you obviously didn't respect my opinion. Going to your point, I mean, so the big term being thrown around now is pathway. It's pathway everything, pro pathway, all this stuff. And it's all just marketing. To me, it's just marketing by these clubs. We offer a pro pathway or a pathway to player development. Everybody says it, but we're not identifying whether it be goalkeepers or field players. I don't think we're identifying the best because I don't think the best are the ones getting selected. And one of the reasons is we've made it so damn expensive.
Yeah.
Right? Kids are getting basically pushed out of the sport or into another sport because of the cost. I mean, other than MLS academies, which is paid for, it's funded by the MLS team. ECNL, MLS Next, that is all pay to play.
ID2 is starting to come into that mold where it's free for players, but you have to be identified. You know what I mean? And that's so there's a struggle there, right? Like they don't have the money to put into the product because they're not bringing in money revenue-wise to support what they want to do. So they're funded by, I believe, US Soccer in that regard. What the results will be, who knows? They just started. But I think the identification is where it all starts. Like, can we identify goalkeeper in this space? Let's just strictly speak to goalkeeping. Can we help identify goalkeepers? Can we figure out a way to identify goalkeepers? And I'll give you two stories. One, we identified a goalkeeper at the U14 level on the girls' side that was pushed right into national camp with ID2. Now, why? It wasn't because ID2 is not out there finding goalkeepers. They're doing their best. But just through a goalkeeper showcase at a recent event, we found 3 goalkeepers that rated higher than the ones that they had at ID2 national camp. And again, it's because I think we goalkeeping experts are putting these kids through a goalkeeper session and be able to get a good read and a good report on these kids that we can then elevate to ID2 or the national teams for that matter, the US youth national team pools, if we find someone at that level. And we've been positive with that. We find positive results. To the contrary of that, we're putting these kids into a camp where then the people that are already there, and this is even said by those hosting the camp, there's a big gap. There's a big gap between number 1 and the number 2 versus the number 3 and the number 4. Like there's a huge gap there. And look back at our history, look at back in the 80s, 90s, and I'm probably getting the times a little off here, but we mentioned these names already on the men's national team level. Friedel, Howard, Foyer, Casey Keller, Miola. Like that. Think about how, like, if one mistake, we're good putting someone else back in. Like, and they're globally known, these guys. Like, are we identifying people? Like we have Freeze and Turner. Are those global names that are going to help us at the World Cup level? We'll find out. I haven't heard one person say, I am so excited for our goalkeepers this World Cup. We are just going to crush it. Like I haven't heard one person say a positive review yet.
No,
I think
it's not there. That's why.
Part of the identifying is when international clubs come looking for these players, right? Nobody's looking for Freeze, right? I haven't heard of anybody with any I'm talking a big club, EPL, whatever, say, hey, we want to take a look at Freeze. Now, Turner got in there with Arsenal, but he didn't stay long.
Yeah. And then what about some of those younger kids? Like we have a kid at Chelsea right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like we have another goalkeeper and I forget the other big club, but we do have younger mid-teens that are kind of in that international platform.
Yeah, I think there are some being identified, yes, and some are getting in the youth academies with these bigger clubs. Yeah. And I don't, like with Pulisic, he got overseas. He developed inside of a foreign academy. So I think that's going to help. Is it going to help these goalkeepers? We definitely hope so. I don't think Horvath and what was the other guy's name? Played for Man City. What was his name? Zach. Zach
Thornton?
No. Not Zach Thornton.
No, not Zach Thornton. Oh, he played for Man City for a little while, and then he was let go. I don't think he went to their academies as a youth and developed. He went straight from here, in this country, and then went straight to theirs. I think if they could get them young enough and get them in their youth academies over there, that is, I think, the pathway that's probably going to help with the international. What's sad is that we're still not doing it in this country.
Yeah.
Like we used to. It used to be that the international teams were coming to the United States wanting Howard and Friedel and Keller. They're not doing that anymore.
Yeah. So, yeah.
All right, guys, let's wrap it up. I have to.
You find his name?
No.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. But I do know who you're referring to. And
Yeah.
I think the development for goalkeepers, for soccer players, a lot of them are abroad and they get brought back in. It's interesting. But anywho.
Don, any last comments?
You go. I'm looking at this.
Okay, Eric.
Yeah, I'll get mine. First and foremost, it was an absolute honor, an honor, a privilege, and something I'll remember is this conversation with Coach Joe. Small little tidbit. I met him once when I was at 16, 17 years old, and he was putting on a session for head coaches, and he needed 3 goalkeepers, and I was one, just local, just luck of the draw.
Get out of here. That's awesome.
So get this. I used to wear goggles. So he was teaching the coaches how to deal with balls top of the 18 when it's a handball versus using your body, so to speak, coming out and claiming that. And I went through a ball and I headed it. And everyone was like, it was a positive moment, but my goggles went. And I can't see. So now I'm backpedaling and something happened. And after the play, Coach Dr. Joe asked me, he's like, so what happened here afterwards? I go, honestly, I couldn't see what I was doing. Like I didn't have my goggles on. He comes over to me, puts my arm around me in front of all these coaches and goes, I've seen a lot of first things. This is the first time I've ever had to deal with a goalkeeper not being able to see, and I don't have a response for him. I was going to bring that up. He had to escape, but yeah,
that's a great story. You have to tell next time he's on. You got to tell him that. That's great.
Okay.
My last words though, and it revolved around those innate skills. Like, can we influence presence? Can we influence leadership? Can we influence management? Because that's really a lot of those three things are big goalkeeping qualities that we need. I loved how far ahead he was of his time from a goalkeeping development standpoint compared to we're doing that today. And these are things he did in the 70s and 80s. One thing else I wanted to ask him about his NASCAR stock car 6-year career. I thought that was a funny one that I read up on him. I wanted like a fun fact I wanted to ask him about. But he's done it all. I'm excited to listen to him this World Cup and as a rules analyst and literally I've learned a lot to be honest with you today about just him and how he influenced the game. It was eye-opening.
Good stuff, Eric. Don, got the name?
Yeah. Oh, got the name. Zach Steffen.
Steffen, yeah, exactly.
God, how could we forget that?
And fun fact, so they did a comparison of Zach Steffen to Tim Howard, Brad Friedel, and Casey Keller. The strengths for Zach Steffen was distribution and athleticism. For the strengths for Tim Howard, Brad Friedel, Casey Keller, across the board, shot stopping, to Dr. Joe's point, presence across the board, durability, positioning, all of that, right? None of that's a strength for Zach Steffen. Weakness, Zach Steffen, decision-making, under pressure, inconsistent. For Tim Howard, Brad Friedel, Casey Keller, distribution, Tim Howard, early in his career. Footwork for Brad Friedel, early era and distribution. Distribution, era-based, athletic ceiling for Casey Keller. So we see that what Coach Joe identified is we're overdoing the distribution aspect where the top 3 goalkeepers it listed here, Friedel, Howard, and Keller, all were shot stopping, positioning, presence, all of that. So my final words is this. Thank you, Dr. Joe, for having the influence you've had for 46 years. The math is right. And still today, it is relevant. Yeah, I count my fingers. It is relevant to the teaching and the coaching. I'm going to make that distinction, coaching today of our goalkeepers, not the training, not the trainers out there just whacking balls at kids that aren't teaching not only the how, the why we do it, the what we do, and all of this. I was geeking out because, again, he had a huge impact on me because, fun fact, when I started playing goalkeeper, I had 3 days before goalkeeper or for soccer tryouts between. And so I was like, I just went to my middle school and checked out the only 3 books we had, and I read a book a day before tryouts. That's how I learned about goalkeeping. And one of those books was Dr. Joe's.
Nice. Yeah.
So,
One question, Don, I got for you regarding, you mentioned you were talking about Zach Steffen, and this is a common for modern day is like distribution and ball at the feet. Who's what, not who specifically a person, but like a title, who's responsible for that change and influence as to why we want a goalkeeper to have footwork and ball at their feet and distribution skills as our number one priority compared to shot stopping and everything else? Like, who's to blame for that in our eyes, in our opinion?
well,
In your opinion?
I don't know if there's a singular coach that I could pick out. I believe, just in my going through my youth, the first one that I remember doing it was Oliver Kahn. Oliver Kahn was really good with his feet, but and then it grew obviously some. I just want to say, I think right now the United States Federation and the way we're selecting players back to identification, USYS included, is that there's such a heavy emphasis on building out of the back.
That's where I was going with it. That's where I was going with it.
It is, we are no longer, we have taken away the ability of decision making from the goalkeeper. It's almost robotic. Get the ball, play it here, Level 2, level 3 is not a thought. And shot stopping is later down the list on the things that were identified. And I'm like, wow, that should be the number one. That should be number one, that they can do that. And then it should be, in my opinion, communication and organization. In fact, now that I think about it, communication and organization they should have a presence, because if you can communicate and organize, you're going to slow, or at least the number and quality of shots you're going to face is going to be diminished. You got to be able to make the save then, right? And then distribution should probably come after that, my opinion.
Yeah, no, and I'm not too far off that either. I think you're spot on. I think the influence, for some odd reason, like distribution skyrocketed up the priority list over the last 2 decades, and it's remained there. And it's just, I don't know. I just don't think it's right. I don't think that's the right order. Is the first thing for goalkeepers to have this distribution, like being able to put the ball wherever you want.
Well, it's what Tim Mulqueen said. 2 things. One of the first things he looks for goalkeeping, athleticism. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And the other thing, but the most important thing is technique and keeping the ball out of the net, and everything else, is something you work on. But I think Dr. Joe was a phenomenal guest, and I'm right with you guys. The influence that he had on me. I mean, when I got into this, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know how to coach it. Never been trained in it when I played or anything like that. So I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. Dr. Joe's book gave me some help settle me and to give me some type of a guidance. But it's, and it kind of led me on my path to start realizing that this position is really, really involved. And to be honest with you, it takes somebody special to coach it. And I just wanted to become one of those people that could teach it. And very fortunate that I was able to do that. But great words out of his mouth. He always measured his statements. He's had a wonderful career. And it was interesting how hockey got him into officiating. And then when the indoor came in, it all came together like boom. That was like all of a sudden I got it. This is exactly where I'm going to go. And very grateful for him for doing what he's done. So thank you, Dr. Joe. It was indeed a privilege to talk with you, and we look forward to having you on again.
Elijah, did you find it interesting that he was self-taught, similar to yourself?
We did have some similarities there. That really resonated with me personally. I didn't really say anything, but I was thinking about that over the last 24 hours, and I was saying, geez, our careers are a lot alike, in certain ways. He obviously took it to a completely different level, but that was his calling, I think, and he did a great job with it. So
But
All
both
right,
of you,
everybody.
real quickly, Blige, I'm going to
Yeah.
end it real quickly, but both of you have had influence on some of the best goalkeepers in this country. You with anyone from Jersey, Sugar, Mole Queen, Timmy Howard, Saskia Weber, like you had influence on that because of your coaching.
Yeah.
Same thing with Dr. Joe. But you guys were both self-taught. You you literally studied the position, every single angle of it. And you guys produced some of the best. So I don't know if that is any foreshadowing to what we need, but at the same time, Blige, congratulations. I think that's great stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's very nice of you to say that, man. Guys, it was great. I really enjoyed the session. On behalf of Don and Eric and myself from Crossbar Conversations, powered by the UGKA, the United Goalkeeping Alliance, the #1 virtual learning platform in the world. Thanks, guys. See you soon. Thank you, everybody, for joining us at this edition of Crossbar Conversations with Don and Blige, powered by the UGKA, United Goalkeeping Alliance, the #1 virtual learning platform for goalkeeping in the world. That's pretty cool. We take the whisperings of goalkeepers from underneath the crossbars, and we bring them to you in open and honest conversations. There's nothing about the position that we won't talk about. Looking forward to all of our conversations that will be upcoming. You, as a goalkeeper, have chosen the most difficult position to master in the game. But remember, it's the best position in the best game in the world. Special thanks today for joining us with Eric Eisenhut, the founder of the UGKA, for offering his insights on what the UGKA is all about, as well as sharing his knowledge about the position and his passion of what he would like to see happen with it and what we need to work on. Thank you very much, Eric. It was great. See you next time. Crossbar Conversations with Don and Blige. And we appreciate it very much. By the way, if you would like to offer your suggestions on different topics for us to talk about, feel free to contact us through the email address that you see at the upper part of the screen. That's info@unitedgkalliance.com. Once again, info@unitedgkalliance.com. That's it. Look forward to seeing you next time. Had a blast. Thank you.